Hi guys, it's Sahil and I'm here with the very interesting game of Vidit Gujrathi versus Anish Giri that was played yesterday at 2:30 a.m. in the Skilling Open, where Vidit is going to face the top players of the world, be it Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Sergei Karyakin, and even Anish Giri, and that is the game we're going to look at right now. And if you're here for the first time, do subscribe to the channel guys, it helps us to come up with videos every day. So Anish is slightly higher here than Vidit, but of course Vidit had the white pieces and he was going to try and win against his friend. So the game began with the Grunfeld, and it started with d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, takes and takes, e4. So white takes up the center, takes, bishop g7, knight f3, and we go through some opening moves. And usually in the Grunfeld, black will try to exchange queens, and then we'll try to attack white center via knight c6. Maybe sometimes he will castle, play rook d8, sometimes e6, sometimes bishop g4, and sometimes even f5. All of these plans based on how white plays. So here knight c6, rook b1. Now this move is often played to tempt black into playing a6, because here, as you can see, rook b5 is a threat, and often black wants to avoid this, and that's why if black were to play a6, then automatically the b6 square is weakened, and that is what white is doing here. So a6, now white actually shifts to the c file and plays rook c1, because now the purpose of the rook is done, and takes, and now you see after e6, black is preventing d5, and now black will try to attack white center somehow. So h4. Now I'm not so sure about this move here, but it's of course normal. Castles, bishop d3, h6, rook b1, and this move is made to kind of prevent bishop d7, rook d8, e5. Now this move is an alpha 0 move. This has been played often by alpha 0. However, maybe it's not the most accurate in this position. Maybe rook c1 first would have been slightly better. But okay, e5, b5, rook at c1, bishop d7, bishop e4. Now the knight is under attack. So rook c8, king e1. Now it makes a lot of sense to get out of this rook's attack here. Knight a5, and black is trying to get to c4 and try to have some counterplay here, and white has to do something about this. Knight d2, he tries, and bishop c6 finally. So if black can exchange these two bishops, then automatically he will have proper control over the d5 square, and that will give him a decent position here. So f3, white tries to do something, bishop f8, getting the only bad piece for black into play. Now the bishop is pointing towards a3 here. So king e2, king g7, knight b3, knight c4. The knight is excellently placed here. So knight d2 back, and here knight a5. Now Vidit had a repetition here, but he played king d1, trying to go for the win. But bishop e7, g3, f6, and black is kind of breaking through white center. King e2, takes, bishop a3. This bishop is very, very irritating, to be honest. White's rooks are not so well placed here. Rook d1. Now the c file is under black's control. Bishop takes, knight takes, and rook c2. Exactly what I mentioned. The rook is entering into the c file into white's camp. And king f1, rook d5, takes, knight f6, knight c4. An excellent knight on c4. This knight is a very dominant piece, putting pressure over the pawn, the bishop, having knight d2 fork sometimes, and bishop f4 was played. g5, another excellent move, takes, and capturing the pawn on e5, which was supporting this knight on f6, and now the knight on f6 is also a bit loose. So rook b3, bishop c5, preparing rook f2, f4, rook f2, king e1, knight f3, king d1. Vidit is running with his king. Knight takes g5, pawn takes, bishop e7, and now knight takes d5, bishop takes g5, and we are entering an endgame now which is technically equal, but somehow white's position went downhill here. We'll look at how. Knight b4, rook d2, king e1, a5, knight c6, takes, and in this position Vidit actually made a mistake. He should have simply played a move like knight e5, blocking the bishop's path, and then I think white has no problems here somehow, because the bishop's diagonal is blocked, and now the king can also approach slowly, and he will be able to stop this pawn easily. However, I think he must be under time pressure, because he kind of captured this, Of course, this position is also a draw. Guys, rook and bishop versus rook, in most cases, is a draw if there is already no mating pattern, but it's very difficult to defend in time pressure, especially. Even top players have lost this, so this was not a good practical decision here. And after a few moves, White eventually lost his pawn, which is going to happen, of course. But this position is also a draw. But with it somehow went wrong. We'll look at where. So far, he's playing well. Now, this is so far a draw. And he's trying his best to kind of prevent the White King from being kind of stuck up on the last rank. So far, he's managed to do so. But pretty soon, he's going to land up in some sort of problem here. We'll look at how. Rook a2, king b1, rook h2, king c1, and now bishop d4. Now this is a very critical moment. I think he had to play something like rook g8. If king d3, then rook g3 check, and then if bishop e3, then king b1. Something like this would have probably given him a draw, but he kind of blundered here with king d1, and now king to d3, and this position, guys, with this format where let's say the black bishop is on the 4th rank and the king is on the 3rd rank, this is a loss. This is a lost position for White. And of course, later on, Vidit lost this. We'll just quickly run through how he lost this, but I think this is irrelevant because right now black just played around with his king, and eventually this is a force mate coming up, and the rook cannot come here to block it. So I think this is just lost, and Vidit resigned. So Anish has managed to prevail over his arch nemesis or his best friend, I think either way, and also his second. Vidit has been his second for a long while now. So he is in lead. Anish with 4 on 5, he's ahead of Magnus Carlsen, who basically blundered his queen by a mouse slip yesterday. So let's see, guys, who is going to run through with the event today. There are 2 more days to go. So let's see who wins this event, and can Vidit come back? He has had 3 draws and 2 losses yesterday. He still has a chance, and we'll hope for the best for him as well. So let's see, guys, what happens in the coming days. If you like the video, do like and subscribe, and check out other content on the channel. We have plenty of interesting videos to choose from, and as always, do take care.